Hello and welcome back to my week. This is our second weekly sports review of the week. There's not been as much news this week, so we hope we can get through this a lot quicker. First, about how much he fell, how close that ended up being. It shouldn't have been that close. Scotty Sheffield particularly shouldn't have been. He deserved to be, obviously, great player, and obviously it's a shame he didn't get his Grand Slam. Hopefully he'll go back and get it next year. In fact, you know what? I've got faith he might go and get it. But Wyndham Clark he had a 7 point lead. He cut down to he had a -7. Fucking hell, 7 under par. That's what I mean. He had a 7 under par lead and somehow ended up on it was on 4 under par. Yeah, he managed to cut himself by 3 bogeys. That is not good. Considering he had to have an eagle on that day, so 2 under par, and still managed to finish 4 under par and only one in the lead. And he also got lucky, and unlucky obviously for Burns, who that miss on the 18th. Oh, I feel so bad for the man. He literally inches away from the hole, and it was such a perfect putt. And it just right at the end, he just didn't go in. And you just got to feel for Burns. He fought right until the end, and just sadly it didn't come for him. And of course, Wyndham Clark did manage to go out and get a par putt on the final 18th to win the US Open. Obviously, we've got one more major this year. In a month's time, in fact, less than a month now, I think, till the Open, which I'm not fully sure where the Open is. I think it's the same place every year. I'll have a look later, but we'll talk a lot about that in the coming months, in the coming weeks as we build up to that. But there you have it. Wyndham Clark wins his first major since 2023, and he also talked at the end, which I thought was quite sweet, that his dad was there to celebrate, his Father's Day. But of course, obviously, as I say, you got to feel for Scotty, going for his career Grand Slam, Father's Day, his own birthday as well. It just didn't come. The grace didn't fall. It was all lined up for him to finish it, but he just couldn't, and I feel for him. But at the end of the day, he's a top player. Top player. He's the world number 2 for a reason. Only behind, of course, the great Rory McIlroy, who is arguably the best player. Sorry, not arguably. He is the best player at the moment in the greatest of forms he's ever been in. And you know what? If one for Rory, Scott would be top by a million miles. But yeah, congratulations to Wyndham Clark. I didn't watch as much of this as I'd like to have done, but I know that it was quite. What did feel very Wyndham Clark dominant from day one onwards. Rory McIlroy did have a bit of a run where he looked like he could win it, but it slipped off after the last few days, and it just. But yeah, as I say, congratulations to Wyndham. And we'll now move on to my next topic, which is, of course, the World Cup. Now, what a hell of a week we had this week. It's gone from no shocks to shocks literally all week long. Last Tuesday, we had Iran draw with New Zealand. That was a big thing. France or Senegal, that was obviously that was a bit controversial, as they reckon France should have had a penalty. I would say it probably was a penalty, but do you know what? Mbappe can be a bit of a knob sometimes. We all know that, so maybe he didn't deserve it. But I'm not going to be rude here. Anyway, where else? No big shocks that day. Obviously, England kicking off their World Cup campaign in style. To the shock of us, I honestly thought we'd get smashed that match, and we did. We played a lot better than I thought he would. Jed Spence played particularly well. Nodi Madueke was awful, as expectedly. I don't see why that man's in the England squad, to be honest. From an England fan's perspective, it's just he's not he's been not very good the last few games. He wasn't great. He's been arguably one of Arsenal's worst forwards this season, and without a doubting his worst forward at this World Cup, to be honest. And the fact that he's getting picked over players like Jared Bowen, I think, is just a shame and a little bit embarrassing for the country. Canada beat Qatar 6-0. Obviously, there was a big horror moment as one of their players went off injured. Horror tackle. I've seen it. Was disgusting. I'm not going to show it on here because obviously, PG. I have all these ones. Switzerland battering Bosnia. I thought Bosnia did play well in their first match. They were ashamed not to come over to win that, and then the fact that they get smashed by their best team in the group isn't that surprising. They still didn't play too badly. Like, I think, who is it they're playing? Let's have a look who they're playing in their final match. It's someone like, they got Qatar in their final match. That should be a win. If they win that, they're pretty much through. And rightly so. I think they've been arguably bar Switzerland the best team in the group. Second best team, and they've been phenomenal. They've had a good few months since beating Italy on penalties to get to the World Cup, first World Cup since 2014. They are playing well, and they're here to do quite well. I would also quickly ask them here, like to apologise for my World Cup predictions, which have come out horribly. Only a few weeks in, I said both South Africa and Bosnia to get to the semi-finals. I had no idea why. And I just would like to make an apology for that. Anyway, USA beating Australia. That I did watch a bit of that. Morocco, Scotland's lovely win, sadly diffused, but it does mean that they now going into their final game as they travel to Miami, which will be a bit different. Their first two games have been in Boston. They'll be travelling across to Miami, and of course, I do think. Well, I think it's going to be tough for them. Obviously, they're playing Brazil. One of the favourites this year. But do you know what? It'd be nice to see Scotland get through. Obviously, I'm English, so I don't like so we're not supposed to like the Scottish. But it would be nice for them to get through. I think they deserve to. They're a nice bunch of people. They are the Scots. You never meet an angry Scot, do you? Really? They're nice people, and I think they do well. Brazil, Haiti, no shock there, is there? Haiti have been getting demolished. Well, not demolished. They have lost 2 games and not scored a single goal. Unsurprisingly, to be honest. Turkey, Paraguay. Obviously, Almiron getting sent off in what I thought was quite an angry sending off. I don't understand why that referee was so red card, properly getting in his face. Clearly, it looked like he held a grudge for something, like the man's Sunderland fan or something. Anyway, Sweden went from winning 5-1 to losing 5-1 in an incredible turnaround. But sorry, I don't know what's going up there. Mixed results for Sweden, but you know what? Just means they've got a big game to play in their final match. Germany, Côte d'Ivoire. Germany had to come from behind to beat Côte d'Ivoire, and Côte d'Ivoire could have gone 2-0 up. They could have won that 2-1, but for some reason their player decided not to shoot, and I think it cost them horribly. That was a terrible mistake. No one looking at that. I think anyone who will look at that will be utterly baffled as to why he didn't shoot there. But it did cost them. Germany got that last minute winner. I don't think they deserved it. I think Côte d'Ivoire probably deserved at least a point out of that. But you can't say anyone deserved anything. A win's a win. But how does it matter how you got there? If you've got the 3 points, that's all you're bothered about. And then, of course, yesterday we had Ecuador, Curacao. Hang on, sorry about that. Ecuador, Curacao, 0-0. A pretty interesting 0-0, I think. Ecuador did fight a bit. Sorry about that. Tunisia, who sacked their manager last week, brought in Hervé Renard, a bit of a World Cup legend, and it has backfired as they've gone to lose 4-0 to Japan. A team who do typically do well at these tournaments, but tough defeat for them, and they are one of the first teams to crush out of the World Cup. Saudi Arabia, Spain get revenge, finally get compensation after their shock draw with Cape Verde. last week, beating Saudi Arabia 4-0. Belgium drew with Iran. Iran did go 1-0 up, but it was a tightly called as offside. I think it's debatable. You could say that was a goal for Iran. You could say Iran could have won that, and possibly, I think they deserved to win that. You look at some of their shot, the chances they had, they easily could have won that. As could Cape Verde against Uruguay. They went 1-0 up, 2-1 down, scored within the first 10 minutes of the second half. And Uruguay just didn't. They had a few shots, but I thought it didn't look like they were going to. Didn't look like they wanted to make it 3-2. But Cape Verde did, and that's ultimately why they ended up with 2-2. It was a tight contest, but yeah, incredibly not a good result for Uruguay at all, but an absolutely massive one for Cape Verde, who continue their charge to try and get into the knockout stages, which, if they do, will be insane. They've got Saudi Arabia in their last match, and Spain have Uruguay. It's going to be two massive matches, and they are two matches to watch, without a doubt. Yeah, New Zealand, Egypt, big match. New Zealand defeat, which surprised me. It surprised me that New Zealand, surprised me New Zealand lost, because Egypt were a good team. But New Zealand are better. I think New Zealand have got a good squad, and the fact that they haven't won yet is surprising. But they have. I can't think who's in there. Are they in a group with Argentina and Austria? Potentially, they might be. So whoever they're in their group with, I think they need to look at. Let's have a look. Who have New Zealand got in their final match? New Zealand's in their last match. Have Belgium. That's going to be a big match for them. And Belgium aren't in a good state at the moment. Their squad they've had a horrifying World Cup, and it continued, as I said yesterday, with the draw against Iran. It's tough for them. But yeah, big results to look out for. We've got Argentina, Austria, and France, Iraq tonight, which by the time this goes, which I pointless me telling you about, because by the time this goes out, you'll know the results. I'm predicting now, I'm saying Argentina to beat Austria and France to batter Iraq. Iraq I swear to God, did not know they had a national team before this tournament. So I wouldn't be surprised if they get absolutely destroyed in that match. Jordan, Algeria, I mean, it's the match. Who else? Why not stay up? Why not get up at 4 a.m. to watch Jordan, Algeria, That's going to be an absolutely boring match, probably 0-0. Portugal, Uzbekistan, that's going to be battering for Portugal, surely. Got to batter them there. England, Ghana, I think we can win this. Although there was this thing that came out this morning that apparently some Ghanaian witch doctors cursed Kane. I don't know how that's going to work. I don't know what. If that does happen, that's scary. I am scared. But you know what? I think we can win that. We should win that after the demolishing of Croatia. Yeah, we should win that easily. Panama, Croatia. What the big results to talk about. So by the time this goes out, the three matches tonight, with your night, will be Panama, Croatia, Colombia, DR Congo, Switzerland, Canada, and Bosnia, Qatar. Bosnia, Qatar is going to be a game to watch. I will definitely be watching that. And them two are on at the same time. That's the first time I've seen that happen in the World Cup so far. I suppose because obviously in different states they can happen simultaneously. But I'm saying, sorry about that. I'm saying Switzerland to narrowly beat Canada, and Bosnia to demolish Qatar and send themselves through. And then, of course, Colombia to beat DR Congo. I think DR Congo have not been great. Wissa, obviously, their big standout player, but it's going to be tough for them. And 2 11 o'clock games that night as well. Scotland, Brazil. I, for one, will be watching that game, and I cannot wait for it. That is going to be the game. It's such a brilliant game to watch. The Scots, obviously known for completely hyping it up. Sky Sports have been hyping it up all week. Brazil, obviously, favourites to win the tournament. My favourites to win the tournament. Yeah, that's going to be interesting. Right, not much more to talk. That's pretty much it for this week in sport. I will be back soon. One thing I do plan to do quite soon is a shirt ranking. So I want to go through some of my favourite shirts in the history of sport. I'm considering doing that. I'm also considering doing a live for the World Cup final, but I haven't fully decided that whether or not that will be going ahead. I will confirm in the coming weeks as we build up to that incredible world final. We've also got the cricket. I think it's next week. This week that they've got the final today. It was a tough defeat, I think, for us to New Zealand. But it looks like I think it looks like Ben Stokes coming back, and he proved that he shouldn't have been not in that. So, yeah. Anyway, thank you for watching this again. I look forward to coming back soon. And if I don't post a video next week, I will see you lot very soon. Cheerio.